The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am very excited about my guest today. I have Christopher Fern here with me. Hello, Christopher. How are you?
Hello, Vera. I am so good. How are you?
I am great. I am great. And I'm really glad that you're here with me tonight. And first, I'm going to share with our audience a little bit about Christopher Fern. Christopher is an author, inventor, and entrepreneur who is pioneering a new way to make decisions on demand for both individuals and businesses. His innovative approach to the principles of psychology and philosophy, mathematics and business, crafted energy economics, a decision making system that facilitates holistic, impactful, life proof decisions. Energy economics, a decision making system that facilitates holistic, impactful, life proof decisions. I said that already and I'll say it again.
Do
Energy
it again.
economics effectively requires awareness, clarity, and bandwidth to ensure integrity at a personal, communal, and global scale. Awesome. Awesome. And you know what? I'm
Thank you.
going to give you a few minutes to share with our audience more about you and how you have come to doing what it is that you do
Hmm.
today. And of course, we're starting from childhood on up.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, childhood on up. That's Vera. I know you're watching. I know you just put me full screen here, but that is a long journey. I'm going to try to keep it to an appropriate amount of time here. Um, my childhood, geez. My childhood. I was raised by a single mother. My dad wasn't around much. He was around a little bit, on and off, but he wasn't around much. We struggled financially. My mom was an RN until she got pregnant. So then she was in and out of different jobs. She was depending on her family. From ages 1 to 3, I lived with my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather. When I was 6, my grandfather died. Now, my mom is adopted with 2 brothers, and I didn't. I was around my grandfather a lot, and I didn't see those uncles very often. They were around here and there. I don't really remember too much, but I remember when my grandfather died, and that was the loss of this father figure in my life. My dad was around a little bit more after that. My mom moved out of my grandmother. She moved down to Florida. I lived in Massachusetts, and things didn't go too well. She was an alcoholic. She kept connecting with various men who weren't that great. I wasn't treated very well. I wasn't. I didn't have a father figure. The father figures I had were the ones who were saying things like, you better do what I say, or you better, get good grades, or your mom told you to do this. Why aren't you doing it? So there's a lot of guilt trips. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of resentment. There was a lot of abuse, honestly. And that affected my mom too. She ended up having to go through various recovery programs. And it wasn't until I was, geez, 13 maybe, where she finally got out of that abusive relationship. Um, and found a partner who wasn't nearly as abusive, and bought a house with that partner. And so now, throughout all this time, from about 6, maybe 7 or 8 up to 13, she was on government disability. And then even beyond that, she was on government disability. She had major depression. She was bipolar. She was in and out of the hospital several times. So my childhood was not stable. It was not secure. It did not allow me the freedom to be able to anything. Um, any deviation from what I should be doing, from getting good grades, from trying to function as a kid, trying to explore as a kid, trying to do anything other than the regimen, was punished. The furthest I could go was into the woods in the backyard, or maybe to the supermarket about quarter mile down the road. And I had maybe 2 friends that I can remember, not many at all. I was the odd man out in school. I wasn't really able to fit in very well, and that was all the way through high school. I did not really get along with people very much because I had a pretty bad perception of people, and now as an adult, I realized I was just projecting that on everybody else. So what that meant is that I ultimately was lonely. I was insecure. I had no stability. I didn't really feel like I had a sense of home because my mom was in and out of the hospital, and I was staying with different relatives, and my grandfather died, and there was really nothing I could grab onto. As I started to get older and realize money existed, and figure out how to manage that, I watched my mom do the same thing every single month. And that same thing was trying to determine if she could afford her bills. So our life never really got above just paying the bills. We had a car. At first, she was paying for this car in in full, and then when she got this other partner, she got loans and stuff. But it was always about, can we just pay the bills? And what ended up happening toward the end of the month is that we ended up never having enough money, even with that partner, to pay the bills. Things were always behind. Things, we were getting shut off notices. At one point, fast forward several years, I saw this pattern for years and years and years. Fast forward, and her house is almost in foreclosure, and we're just not making ends meet. And I'm watching her at the beginning of the month say we can do it, and at the end of the month say we can't. So I decided to start really looking into why that is. And I thought it was her. And then I got a salary job. And then I thought I was broken because I was doing the same thing. I was creating an estimate. I was trying to live up to it. I couldn't do it. And I would hold myself to that. I would hold myself to the commitments I made and feel horrible and end up depressed. So I thought it was her. I thought it was me. Then I was angry at the world for a whole bunch of reasons. Over time, I had to uncover the nature of how people think and realize that the world really isn't cut out. Well, I'm not going to say it's not cut out. It is cut out for something, but it's not designed for the way people operate. Even something as simple as making a to-do list. Most of
Well,
the time when people, go ahead. I see you
yes,
putting your finger up.
yes. Before we get into all of those things, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
go back because
Go
I need
back.
to ask you a question.
Sure.
Our
I saw you
top,
come on and I have a timer running and you gave me a time limit. And I'm like, what's going on here? She's got something to say.
yeah, I do, because I don't
What's up?
want to miss the fact our title is ADHD and autism. And one of the things
Getting there. Yeah.
that, um, I know that you talked about your childhood, and the
Mhm.
thing is, a lot of the reasons that you had the trauma that you had with your those stepfathers and in school and all those other things, and like you said, you were different. You weren't cut out of the same cloth as everybody else. I think I heard you say that. And
Something like that. Yeah.
similar. And
Yeah.
so, when did you recognize that you may have been autistic or have ADHD? So when did
Seven.
you?
I'm 37. That was 7 years ago. I first recognized it. Now, if you want to say, when did I recognize I was different? Geez, 8, 9.
Okay, and how did you feel feeling different?
a tough question. How does a cat feel about being a cat, right? So what I was describing is that sense of loneliness that I
Yeah.
felt because I didn't really have any support. I didn't have many friends. And I was in and out of various places to say, that was just my life. I thought every kid experienced that.
Okay.
So I didn't really recognize. The only way that I knew I was different is because I tried to make friends and they would laugh at me or make fun of me.
Okay.
I was placed in special education programs with kids that, were quadriplegic and couldn't walk and can barely talk and had distortions to how they could speak. And it's like, I don't have that going on. And the teacher was in that program was like, well, you just seem a little different. I got speech therapy because I couldn't pronounce my R's. Like R's, I sounded like I was from Boston all the time. There was just a general sense of you don't fit in. But
Yes.
after a while, it just became that's okay. That's what it is. Okay. I didn't think about it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And, I asked that question because there are children out there that may be listening that may be feeling those same kinds of ways and
Yeah.
not understanding that you are made differently. And
Right.
and that was the source. I mean, there were things as an ADHD kid or an autistic child, things happen that you really don't have any control over. It's just a part
That's right.
of the condition. But because people didn't understand that that was your condition, you were traumatized. And
Right.
so
Mm-hmm.
and so go ahead.
So that's what I've had to learn in this exploration of this deep dive that I was starting to talk about is, you know, I I connect with parents, I connect with adults who were kids at my age, and the consistent theme is that not only was it that we were lonely, not only was it that things didn't work out for us, but there's this perpetual feeling of I'm constantly being abused. I'm constantly being traumatized. I have a Facebook post that I put in a group where there's over 300 responses before the admin shut off the comments because whatever, um, of people giving me phrases and words that they would hear that perpetuate this trauma that are unconsciously being said to them, and it just perpetuated. So I was being traumatized, and the general consensus is that every day where a neurodivergent person isn't living a life that's designed for them, in other words, they're living this life made by the powers that be and held to some standard that isn't what works, they're being re-traumatized. So there's this
Right.
belief that we can just heal the trauma, but we actually have to heal something bigger.
Yes. Yes, society for one. But but also there was another point that I wanted to make and I had a senior moment. Uh
Oh, sorry about that.
that's okay.
Traumatized. I was, yeah. You said I was being traumatized, and I kept trying to talk.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. Helped me
I'm good at this.
remember.
You're welcome.
Okay, so my
I get it.
question is okay, so my question is when were you diagnosed? I know you said it was just a few years ago, but
That's right.
were you clinically diagnosed
Nope.
as having this? Okay, so
No.
talk about
Well,
your
actually, that's questionable. So what I didn't do is pay the thousands of dollars to take the plethora of tests that you would take. All right. What I did do is I saw a licensed clinical social worker who gave me the standard test for testing for Asperger's. That's a free
okay,
test you can get online. There's a bunch of studies that demonstrate that this test gives you something like 98% success of diagnostics. So it's a test that asks you a bunch of questions, and the general answers are this has always been the case. This was the case only until I was a child or until I was 12 or 8, or they give you some age, a teenager. This was the case only in my adult years, or it was never been the case. And I didn't study the scoring mechanism, so I can't tell you how they scored. But the maximum that you can score is 180, I think. My therapist at the time got 158. I got 136. A normal person who's not autistic gets like a 90.
Okay, and let me say this. Asperger's is a form of autism.
It is, and it's
And
not even
you,
called Asperger's anymore.
oh, it's not. Well, I remember what it was.
Me too.
What what is it called now?
It's just a form of autism.
On a
Now,
spec
depending on the country, there's levels of autism.
Yes,
Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take this huge spectrum that is
yes,
multidimensional. It's not just a
yes.
like color spectrum. And they're trying to give it a name so that the not autistic people can call it something. But the reality is it's so much more diverse than that. And if it's attempted to be explained in words how diverse it is, it's overcomplicated. And don't get me on that soapbox. But yeah,
Okay. All right. And another thing about autism and ADHD, those children tend to be very intelligent.
right.
In many cases, higher leveled intelligence than the norm.
That's right.
I just wanted to say that. Okay. Go ahead.
I took an IQ test when I was in my teens, and it came out to something like 140 or something like that.
Wow.
And I mean, the system that you introduced me as having, developed and built was an attempt for me to try to figure out why something as simple as balancing a checkbook didn't work, or managing my time, or showing up to work on time, or whatever. And it sent me down so many rabbit holes. But in order for me to even understand the connections between all those rabbit holes, I had to be a little different, like it's taken me a decade and a half to even be able to explain it in a way that's simple.
And even, and let me say, having talked with you, even simple in your mind is
Yeah,
not
no,
necessarily always simple to other people. And that's because
that's right.
you've not only you've lived it, you've experienced it, and you've now founded a system that helped you so that you can help other people. And so I'm not I don't hope you don't take it as a criticism. It's actually
Look,
a
I
compliment.
know one of the things I talk about, Vera, is the nature of communication, right? We can only say one word at a time. Words are an abbreviation for a bigger idea, always. And so if we're trying to communicate words in a sequence to explain something bigger, that's nearly impossible. So it sounds complicated. The only way to communicate this is through experience. And the example I like to use is, do you remember when iPods came out?
Yes.
Yeah. So you pick up the iPod, and you've got all kinds of different devices at the time. And it was like 36 features and, 20 different buttons on all these MP3 players, music players. You pick up this iPod. It's got a hard drive in it, most storage capacity than any other device. And it's got two things. It's got a spinny wheel and a button. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
So if Steve Jobs were trying to explain the simplicity that he saw in his mind,
Right.
it would be overcomplicated. But you just got to
Yeah.
build the thing.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So when we talk about the inventor part of this, it's every time somebody asks me what I do, I realize how much the world needs the thing that I've built and now is being added to, right? So there's going to be an app and there's several components of it, but it's got to be such an intuitive response, a visceral response of, whoa, that's way easier than anything else I'm ever doing. That demonstrates. It has to demonstrate. It can't be told. And nothing can really be communicated in words unless it's so precisely read, like the poem you read me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can go in all kinds of directions with that. Where are you guided to lead?
Awesome. Well, you know what? I think, oh my God, I want you now, you have started talking about the mathematical, the accounting, the organizing, and all the other things that you had to first learn yourself.
And psychology. So the unpredictable nature of human beings. Yes, that too.
Okay. All right. I want you to touch on that so that our audience understands that concept. And I'm going to be putting notes in the comments. And though, if and you know, we are on 9 different platforms right now, and I'm so great. There's flies that are just bothering me. There, we're on 9 different platforms right now, and some of those platforms are not able to comment here. Those of you that can, please do and give us some feedback and let us know what you're thinking about what we're talking about. Do you know a child that was not diagnosed, but you assume some things that Chris has already talked about that you're seeing in these children? So comment, please, and like, share, and subscribe to the Vera Thomas Show. All
Thank
right.
you so much, Vera. So I'll start by saying this. This one of the signature things that I find in every neurodivergent person I speak with, whether it's ADHD, autism, Asperger's, whatever box we're talking about, is the common thread of being able to see relationships, see patterns, goes beyond that, see the same patterns across several different domains and practices and areas of life. So for me, it wasn't, oh, I'm going to study mathematics. I'm going to study accounting and accountability. I'm going to study, finance. It wasn't a separate thing. It was, I was seeking one way of relating myself to the rest of the world. That's the theme from childhood out, right? But that comes with expectations. What does the world expect of me? What do I expect of myself? And can I be in integrity with that? And that's a very complicated question because the challenge with that question, what's the world expect of me? What do I expect myself? And can I be in integrity with that? Sounds simple. And most, employers or, people who have been in a corporate job or people who are just forcing themselves to do things, just say, yeah, just get it done. Just, it doesn't matter what it takes. Just do the thing. But energy every day varies, right? Motivation varies. What I had to realize in all of these studies is that not only does energy vary and motivation vary, but based on different times of different external forces and internal forces, one time of the day might be the best day for me to sit down and write code. But if I try to do that 12 hours later, the code's going to have tons of bugs in it. It's not going to be as effective. So I had to first look at the trends of myself over time and see what I was best for at what time, both of day and over time. So I had to start to see these cycles. Of course, everybody
Now,
said, go ahead.
now
That's like,
this applies to everybody.
oh, it applies to everybody. And neurodivergent people are far more sensitive to it. And there's a
Okay.
reason for that. I'm going to circle back to that in a second.
Okay.
So it
And
applies to everybody.
one other thing, when you say neurodivergent people
Neurodiverse. Yeah.
or
Right.
neurodiverse people, you're talking about people that have autism. Are you talking about any other condition as well?
Generally, what I found is that a lot of the other conditions are symptoms of the same set
Okay.
of cognitive, neurological conditions. And
Okay.
again, I'll come back to that in a second.
Don't forget.
But I won't forget. But
Okay.
what I am very good at not forgetting. I've had to train that into myself. But what I now you got me forgetting. See that? What I also had to realize, okay, so there's some changes within myself. There's some times I'm best suited to do things. But then like these expectations from the outside are they're relentless. They're absolutely like they're generally very unforgiving. I had several roles in my professional career before I became an entrepreneur where if I was 2 minutes late to work, I'll get written up. They're very high demand. And those are very like most people don't stay in those roles because they compromise the those cycles. They compromise human nature to have to be that rigid all of the time for an extended period.
Yes. And
And
it's unfortunate that most people are in jobs with that kind of stringent
right.
regimentation.
Yep.
And to divert from it causes problems for
Yep.
them. And
Well,
so we
that's
go
that's
ahead.
the interesting part, right? So I believe that a lot of us humans have been traumatized into societal expectations so much so that they're out of sync with their own cycles. What does
Yes,
that
I
mean? It means
agree.
that self-harm is happening, disease, I mean, disease is being created, and there's
Disease,
a
yes,
whole bunch. That's a whole other conversation. But
it is.
I had to look at myself. The founding question to all this work was, why is it that when I do my financial projections, because I'm on a salary at the time, I'm like, I know how much I make, I know what I have to spend. Why is it that when I say I should have $500 at the end of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I have negative $500? And of course, you could say cut out extra spending and all this stuff. So I did. And I found I felt like crap. And I would sabotage other areas of my life. And then it became this question of a relationship. It's going to be another thing I'm going to type in, a relationship between human nature and human desire and the structure that has to contain it. So for me, it was about, all right, well, I need this regimen. I need this uh, plan, this discipline. But I also recognize that the discipline itself makes me want to deviate from the discipline. That
And
was,
is that because of a condition?
I wouldn't say so. People want novelty
Okay.
and people want routine. Those two things contradict.
Okay. Yeah,
Those are
they
things
do.
that everybody wants in different degrees. And again, there's one factor that really makes all of this be the condition. And I will again, I'm going to come back to that. I'm kind of saving that for the end, because you may notice that the things I'm describing, I keep saying, oh, this is true for everybody. But when we consider this one factor that I'm going to come back to, the scales really tip and everything starts to make sense. So that was my first exploration into psychology. I was like, why is it that my expectation for myself, founded on what should be reasonable and logical, which is apparently the only truth, that's what I'm told anyway. It just makes sense, or it should make sense, or science says this, or whatever. Like, why is it that I would show up and have a different response? And why is it that I would feel bad when I tried to manage myself? Or why is it that I would feel okay about going to get takeout a bunch of times? Like, what's that about? So I'm starting to look at the psychological nature of people, and that's when I started to discover things like cognitive biases, which, think of them like distortions in our perception, right? So there's a common example that's almost everybody has seen, where it's two lines and one line has arrows like this and the other line has arrows that point the other way, and it says which line is longer. And even if you know the answer, and the answer, by the way, is they're both the same length, but even if you
Right.
know the answer, one line looks longer than the other. And that's
Right.
a distortion in our perspective. There's another one that looks like railway ties, with lines spaced evenly, and two lines kind of coming together in the distance, but they never touch. And it takes two of those lines and it says which lines are longer, and they're both the same, but no matter how hard you look at it, you don't see it that way. So those weren't the examples, but those are the examples I use today to describe a collection of failures I call it failures in our thinking machinery, or distortions in our perception. This is true for everybody. Everybody has these distortions. These are cognitive biases, and there's cognitive biases that affect how we remember things, and cognitive biases that affect how we project the future, and cognitive biases that affect how we interpret information. The confirmation bias is one that a lot of people know. There's one that a lot of people have also heard of called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the effect where you overestimate your skill in something when you just start to learn it, right? And then over time, you end up in this depression where you're like, I know nothing, and then it starts to edge its way back up again. Entrepreneurs experience that a lot of the time. So there's all this matrix, this over 200, 300 some odd different biases. There's a great article that I can send in a little bit when I'm not in the middle of a story. I'll pull it up and send the link in the chat. That goes into all of these and maps them out in a really cool way. But understanding that then gave me a sort of algebraic equation. And I was always good at math. But it wasn't until I got to calculus that I was good at math, for reasons that I don't know that we have time to nerd out about necessarily.
And actually, right now, I need to take a break. So the other stuff that you need to pull up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead and do that as I share. I'm going to share a couple of videos.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. All right. Let me.
Hallelujah.
Hey there, Jason McNamara here, and I'm about to drop something truly game-changing your way. Are you tired of the same old 9-to-5 grind? Feeling stuck in obtaining the life you deserve and craving something more? Well, listen up, because I've got something you will not want to miss. Introducing the No More 9-to-5 Club Professional Membership, your ticket to freedom and success in the entrepreneurial world. With our professional membership, you'll get access to weekly coaching sessions, pre-recorded trainings, and a vibrant community of fellow game changers. You get access to technology that will allow you to automate passive income streams, as well as unlock all of our expert-led trainings in the back office so you know where to go for good advice when you need it. You will also use the club to build up a residual income stream with a 2-tier 33% affiliate commission unlocked at this level, allowing you to help people help themselves while generating a residual passive income stream for yourself. And here's the kicker. For a limited time, you can unlock all of this just for a $1.11 donation to our club foundation.
I like this one.
Your first month is on us. So what's holding you back? Click the link below, make your donation, and let's start building the life and business of your dreams together. Here at the No More 9-to-5 Club, we're all about turning dreams into reality and smashing through those glass ceilings.
That's what I'm talking about, Jake.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, we've got the tools and support you need to thrive and evolve. And don't forget to sign up for our bootcamp training. It's the perfect way to kickstart your journey and unlock even more perks. So what are you waiting for? Join the No More 9-to-5 Club today, and let's make those dreams a reality. I can't wait to see you on the inside. You only get one now. Invest it in your better future. Let's make magic happen together.
No more 9 to 5. Let me tell you, if you want to connect with like-minded people, positive people that have purpose and passion and are driven, just as Christopher is, that's how we met at No More 9 to 5. And it is an organization that is designed to uplift, encourage, motivate, inspire, and educate through its mastermind series that we meet to discuss all kinds of topics related to your business. If you are looking for residual income, there are resources and options that you can find out about through No More 9 to 5. If you just want to connect with positive people, or if you have a job, but it's not giving you, it's what we just got finished talking about, and it's not giving you what it is that you need, then check out No More 9 to 5. This is where you may become inspired to move into your own purpose, your own passion. So check out No More 9 to 5. I put the link in the comments, and it's bit.ly/No More 925, and those are all numbers, 925 VT. So check it out.
In a world where authenticity is the key, unlock your brand's potential with ADM's game-changing marketing solutions. We craft striking logos that embody your brand's spirit and build websites that captivate and convert. Our lead generation strategies are tailored to your needs, driving growth and boosting your bottom line. And our content, well, it's not just content. It's a narrative, a story that connects and resonates with your audience. But here at ADM, we're about more than just exceptional services. We're about authenticity, about staying true to who you are and what you stand for, because realness, That's what makes a brand unforgettable. So if you're ready to elevate your brand with authenticity and excellence, follow this page. Dive deeper into the world of divine marketing and become part of our community. Because at ADM, we're not just about making brands, we're about making brands matter.
ADM, Ariel Chime, Authentic Divine Marketing. She's another No More 9-to-5er. You want to check her out. If you want videos that are going to compel, impel, and make people want to come to you, you want to look at Divine Marketing, Authentic Divine Marketing, Ariel. And I'm going to put her information in the chat so that you can connect with her. Many of the videos that I share on my show were created by her. So you want to check her out. She knows what she's doing, and what she does is what it is that you want. So check it out. Check it out. And it's in the chat right now. All right. Now I have some more commercials, but I'm going to wait on those so that we can talk. You put in the chat, you gave me a link. Let's talk about that link.
All right. So this link opens up to
a
Medium.
Wait a minute. We got a comment. We got a comment here.
Well, it's all right. Let's address the
Yeah,
comment.
we got to check out the comment. Greetings, sis. And this is IFA Pretus, Georgia. I hope you should have felt like okay. Can't just message you for no reason. Okay, if I'm permitted, can I just okay, we can deal with that at another time, not on my show at this particular time. All right. All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, the article that I sent you opens up to a Medium article, which is titled Cognitive Bias Cheat Sheet. And it gets into, it's a kind of a shorter article. It used to be a lot longer. But what he does in this article is breaks down over, I think, 200 different cognitive biases by the scientific name of them and how they distort our perspective. So he goes into things like, what should we remember? What do we do with too much information? What do we do when we don't have enough meaning? What do we do when we need to act fast? Those are the main themes of these biases as he describes them. So this was an article that I found early on in my entrepreneurship that really gave me, and into this questioning, that really gave me a sense of the fact that I can't trust what my brain perceives. So when I talk about external...
Say that again. I cannot trust
what my brain perceives.
Perceives, correct. Not conceives. There's a difference there.
There is a difference there, but it takes a lot of self-awareness to know the difference.
Okay, well,
so
go ahead.
We're talking about external expectations, personal expectations, and integrity with those. Any perception of what I'm expected to do, any time constraint, any urgency, any sense of I'm getting too much too fast, any sense of I need more information, any sense of recall, any of that is subject to be misinterpreted. And to make matters worse, the memories that we have are also subject to be misinterpreted. So I got to a point where I was like, the only thing I can really trust in terms of my sense of truth, integrity, is data and mathematics. But we have all the
So what you're saying is the only thing you can trust are facts and evidence.
No, that's why I said mathematics. So I was just about to say, we have all these other changing variables about being a human, changing energy levels, changing motivation levels. I want 2 weeks from now, I'm going to want a bunch of different stuff than I want right now. So when I said mathematics, and I was talking about calculus and algebra earlier, what I had to do is see these biases as an algebraic equation that dealt with changes in time, changes in energy, changes in motivation, and start to, that was the beginning. So you asked what was the beginning? That was the beginning, where I had to start to see all these different factors that go into decision making and start to see relationships in a predictable way but not a way that I could predict. In other words,
And I have to say this.
that's fine. I can go on for ages. What do you got to say?
I know you can, but the thing is, you took psychological evidence,
Yeah.
and you recreated it from a mathematical perspective. Now, Christopher,
Yeah. What's up?
how many people?
I haven't found any yet. That's the
I
problem.
know you are so unique. I mean, who can fathom taking psychological principles, things from psychologists, those principles, and turning them into mathematical equations? That
You could say
is
algebraic if that's easier. Yeah.
okay. I mean, that is just amazing. It's
Right.
mind blowing for me. I'm gonna be
Sure.
honest.
So that was step one. So I mean, like, there's this weird juxtaposition. Thank you. And there's this weird juxtaposition where, cool, I'm really good at math and I'm a computer scientist. My background's in software engineering. And I can see all the psychology and I can see all these relationships. So I can look back and say, well, my memory is probably distorted in this way because I know I'm susceptible to this particular bias. And that doesn't mean I can derive the truth, but I can certainly derive the stuff that isn't true. And I know what to trust and I know what not to trust. So then the common factor between everything became a degree of trust. How much can I trust this thought? How much can I trust this thought? How much can I trust this feeling? How much can I trust this decision? How much can I trust this prediction? You with me?
Yeah, I am. No,
So
I do want to say another thing though, because again, we have to understand your perceptions, conceptions, and your mind blowing way of doing things is a part of that autism.
Right. So we have an hour on the show, right? I want to make sure I circle back to the mystery.
Okay, yeah, because I really want to, the thing is looking at ADHD and autism and the impact that it has, but also your solution, the solution that you have designed, an audience. Let me tell you, it's mind blowing. I'm sitting here in awe.
Try to explain it.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. I'll shut up.
So I'm gonna try to keep. I'm gonna abridge the story because I know we don't have a lot of time. But you asked me a couple things, and I was trying to give you two examples. One, how the autistic and neurodiverse mind sees patterns of information. So for me, I had to see the patterns in my inaccuracies and my poor estimates to even go looking at psychology. Then I applied those same patterns to psychology. Then I applied those same patterns to trust. And then I applied those same patterns to time and to energy and to all these things over time. I'm not going to walk you through everything. But now what I've had to do is realize I'm not going to walk up to somebody on the street and explain the circuitry of the first iPod. Nobody gives anything about that. Right? So what I have to do is build a set of tools that convey the wisdom that I figured out. And that's the inventor entrepreneur part. So there's an app that's in development. There's a demo of it available. I'll send you the link right now. There's a demo of it available. You can request you have the Meet link. So we could do that. If anybody's interested in a demo, you could put up that link. It's by request only. At this point, it's a private app.
Okay,
so
well,
it's not
I'm definitely interested in looking at it. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's only one of 4 apps that combine to form, like, how the iPod and the iPad was like, oh, we have apps now. And that was the first thing to have apps, right? So it's a system, as you said, that takes all of the 16 different factors that go into decision making, including the past, the present, the future, including cost and value, including context, including space, time, energy, and money management. Takes all, those are all the factors. There's 7 different dimensions of these factors. So you can't keep it all in your head. And that's going to be the bridge to the difference that I was talking about. You can't keep it all in your head. Nobody can. So I've had to find the system of equations between all of these, and then a way to create a psychological response to a very efficient system of equations. So when you use this demo, we pick one context. So we pick one scenario or one intention, and we just brain dump all of the parts of that thing. It might be stuff you have to do today. It might be a business strategy. It might be people to call. It doesn't matter what it is, but taking only 2 of those 16 factors and just showing how just with those 2, we can be even more effective. The rest of the little apps are okay. Yeah.
That stems back to when you said, and you are showing a perfect example of the comment where you said common thread of with autism is seeing the same patterns in all domains of life, which is what you're talking about right now. This app that you've created will allow people to look at each thread in their lives and their decision-making process for those threads.
And be able to then, the app will help you make a decision without all of the stress that we experience, but just take for granted about making decisions. Because again, a cat doesn't know it's a cat. So if we're just so used, if I'm so used to being alone in school all the time that I thought it was my normal, and everybody is so used to these ways of trying to make decisions that they think it's just the way it is. It's not. It doesn't have to be the way it is, but who even knows the potential that's available until you feel it, until you pick up that iPod. So
yeah.
So I want to come back to this like secret I've been holding, because that's a great transition to that. And I know you got more videos to play, so I'm going to do this pretty quick.
Okay.
The idea of we can't keep all these parts in our head. Now, everybody, like none of those factors that I've identified are autistic only or neurodivergent only factors. They affect everybody. Time affects everybody. Energy affects everybody, right? But the wiring of a neurodiverse brain is such that I like to use a metaphor of a table, a physical table. Everybody's put stuff on a table to organize it, or a floor or something. And for most people, they have the ability to do that with a fair degree of ease, unless you're an incredibly disorganized person, at which point then this metaphor works really, really well. For a neurodivergent person, not only do they have a smaller surface relative to everybody else, but as they add more onto that surface, it continues to shrink because of the wiring in the mind. And specifically, I'm talking about the limbic system connected to the amygdala that causes a stress response. And we all know stress is bad for you, creates panic, creates problems. So imagine trying to organize stuff, but every time you put something on the table shrinks, and you start with a smaller table.
Okay, so when you are, okay, so in a neurodivergent person or an autistic person, in their mind, the table is actually shrinking. Is that what
it's
you're
working
saying?
memory? Yeah, it's working memory. So they don't think of a table. Like I don't think of a table. It's a metaphor. But the idea is we all have working memory. We all keep stuff in our head. Like for my ability to hold this idea is working memory. But there's less available working memory in neurodivergent people because of a whole lot of things.
Okay.
And because of the wiring in neurodivergent people, the more input we receive, whether it's sensory input, auditory input, visual input, or all these things that people can think about as freaking out autistic people, the reason it freaks them out is because the wiring is such that every piece of input triggers the amygdala response, which is the emotional center, which is like fight or flight, easily gets triggered. And that's just a different wiring. So you and I both know the impact of stress, and the more stress you have, the less prefrontal cortex brain ability, the less working capacity in your brain you have, the less focus you have, the less, right? So you're adding stuff to this working memory. I'm trying to remember things, but as I'm trying to remember things, I'm constantly bombarded with input. And I'm trying to remember things. So that table gets smaller and smaller and smaller because the stress goes up and up and up. That's the mechanical difference. So everything else is the same in a neurodivergent person, in my opinion, except it's like one of those puzzles where there's a picture and you have to move the little squares around to make the picture. I don't know if you've ever used those, or a puzzle. You have to find all the pieces for the puzzle. Well, a neurodivergent person is dealing with 1,000-piece puzzle. You're dealing with 100-piece puzzle. Or if you know that square thing I'm talking about, a neurodivergent person has only one free square to move squares around to make a picture, and a neurotypical person or non-neurodivergent person might have 3 or 4. So you can think faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to need, I want you to do, based on what you felt, how you felt as a child with autism, I
Yes.
want you to share some of the signs that parents can observe in their children. I would like for us to do that, if you don't mind.
We can do that. Yeah, no, let's do it.
Okay.
I got everything out I wanted to say. I got the parts.
Oh, did you?
Well, almost. I could have gone deep, but I circled back to all the loops.
Okay, well, Christopher, you are deep. You are deep. You are very intelligent. You have mind-blowing concepts. And I also understand that much of that stems from how your brain is wired as a neurodivergent yourself. And that's why parents, if you have children that seem, they don't fit the mold, don't dismiss that, because first of all, you're dealing with a very intelligent child, and other people are thinking they're not. But neurodivergent people are super intelligent, whether it's ADHD or autism. Most are super intelligent, and they just need to be guided in the areas of their strengths and their purpose and their passion. All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Mama Knows creates high-quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products, because Mama knows what you need.
Let me tell you about these products. They are wonderful. They smell great, and they're good for all ethnicities. Boys, girls, men, and women. Shampoos, conditioners, elixirs, hair serums, moisturizers. She's got a whole product line to make for healthier hair. You want to check out mamaknowsproducts.com. Why? Because Mama knows what you need. So check it out. Check it out. All right. And then, I hope this doesn't run over, but I need to promote my upcoming workshop. So give me a minute with that.
I can be quick. I can do what you asked me for in like 3 minutes or less. So
okay. Okay. Really?
Try me.
Okay. I believe you. I believe you without question or doubt. I believe you. You say it, I believe it.
Well, don't waste your.
Father, provider, protector, role model for a son. The image of the man that will be the husband of your daughter when that time comes. What's best for your children should be concern number one, regardless of any obstacles a father must overcome. Sometimes the injustices of our society towards many of our fathers can make it hard to stand, but you gotta stand and be a man and a father to your children in every way you possibly can. Demonstrate their worth through you by the words that you say and the things that you do. Don't ever put your children down or call them out of their name. They may become whatever you claim. Lift them up to higher ground. Let their inner beauty be seen, be found. Show them and tell them how special they are. Be the light. Be the light. Be the light to take them far. Show them and tell them how much you really care, and let them know no matter what, you will always, in all ways, be there. Pray that our fathers will be guided by the light to lead their children in the ways that are right. Well, let me tell you, I have created, based on research and science, a comprehensive mastermind for fathers called Nurturing Relationships, Strengthening Bonds. Why am I doing this? Having grown up without my biological father and having a father model that was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive towards me, I have developed this program to help fathers understand the importance in their children's lives. I used to drive Uber and I would pick up girls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would always ask them, what type of relationship do you have with your father? And 3 to 4 out of 5 would say to me either they had no relationship with their father or they had a bad relationship with their father. And for these reasons, I have developed this mastermind. You can get free tips and register at bit.ly/tips for fathers. All right. All right. Back to you.
Back to me. Well, you asked me a
Yes.
question. Let's restate
Yes.
that.
The question is, having being, not just been, but being a neurodivergent individual, having had
Mm-hmm.
autism and possibly ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
what signs can parents look at or be aware of or kind of observe in their child that might make them feel that this may be one of the concerns of their child?
Sure. So you're going to notice a lot of things if you're a parent and you're listening. You're going to notice your kid. Well, ADHD is pretty signature. It's this sense of bouncing off the walls, hyperactivity, not the inability to focus. At least that's what's being told. That's the story that those without it will tell you. And we just talked a lot about what's going on. So I'm not going to tell you why that's just a story. But autism, you're going to notice some really interesting stuff. Like the kid might hyper obsess about weird things. Like I remember building an electrical circuit with a gum wrapper and a golf club. Like you're going to see some weird stuff. You're also going to see some innovative ways to do things. I was talking to a parent who has a bunch of neurodivergent kids earlier, and they're in elementary school and doing math, or whatever school, and doing math, basic arithmetic. And the kid was showing the teacher how he got his result. And the teacher said, I have no idea how you did that, but you got there. So you're going to see that these kids have ways to get to answers that don't follow anything that's out there currently, that don't follow any preconceived notion. You're also going to see that they tend to try to explain things with a lot of words, and they try to overcomplicate. That's a signature term that you're going to see with these kids. Is they're going to try to overcomplicate things from the outside perspective, but really what they're trying to do is explain what they see as simple. You might also see them hyper focusing on stuff. Like I broke my leg once and decided to learn how to read barcode. Don't ask. So weird hyper obsessions, deep dives into focus, and then you may see them shifting if they don't know how to control that focus, or you don't help guide them in controlling that focus. You may see them shifting what they're focused on all the time, and those are a couple of signs. There's also a book. You could see the cover here on the show cover at the beginning of the show. I call the NDNT Survivor's Guide.
Yes, I forgot we were supposed to look at the books.
It's all right. Well, I'll put the link.
Let me pull it up.
It is in the Facebook group as well. Right now, you may not be able to get to the page, Vera, for reasons.
Okay,
but
you also
you can pull up the book. Yeah, so that's awesome. So that gets into if you're more interested in the wiring in the brain that I talked about, that is the ADHD and autism operating system. I've pulled together tons of research, scientific studies that describe the fMRIs and the lighting, how things light up in the brain, and under different stimulations and under different conditions for neurodiverse and autistic people. And then I built a course. I built a series of videos that I used ChatGPT to help me write. So it's good for neurodiverse people and neurotypical people, and describes all of what's going on and links you to the research. So if you're curious to know more about that neurodiverse operating system, how the brain's actually wired and what that means, you can check that out. That's also in the Facebook group. The other book cover I gave you, I call the Survivor's Guide, because it starts off talking about that table metaphor that I described earlier, and then gets into a couple of different ways that we can cope. That's coming up with a version 2 pretty soon, another revision.
Okay.
So.
You know what? We could talk for hours. and
for about an hour and a half, though. So,
but I think you've given some very valuable information. You've given some tips, and you've given an explanation for how a neurodivergent mind works.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
And I had a smile on my face the whole time, because I'm just thinking, this man is brilliant.
I hope it lasted through the commercials.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. God bless you. And God bless you, my listening audience. Have a great weekend. And with that, good night.
Good night.
The Vera and Tom.